Mm. All right. There we go. All right, here we go. What's up, everybody? Lindsay here from the Closet on the Right. Thank you so much for joining me today. I am joined by Erin Phillips, and she is with an amazing organization called Power to Parent. And essentially, what that is, I actually met her at a back to school rally here in Las Vegas because our governor is awful and is not allowing any of the children to go to school. But it's more than just that. We're also talking about curriculum, liberal bias in education. As you guys know, this has been a pretty hot topic here on the page for me and a lot of people who have children who are in public education. So I want to introduce you really quickly to Erin. Erin, tell us about yourself. Tell us about your organization. I'm so grateful that you're here because this is such an incredibly important issue.
Hey, yeah, thanks, Lindsay, for having me on. My name is Erin Phillips, and I'm a mom of 5 kids, and we've done a mix of public school, private school, homeschool, so we've experienced a lot of different educational options. We really began Power to Parent as a grassroots organization in about 2015 is when we started. And we really realized really quickly some of the issues that we were dealing with in the local school district was a broader issue, a greater parental rights issue, that really there was a deficit in our state and kind of around the country of people recognizing that parental rights were being impeded on. And so as a parent, I was really concerned and just really began helping gather other parents together. And ultimately, we formed this parental rights organization. So yeah, we have been working really, really hard for almost 6 years.
Yeah, and it's pretty incredible because as a parent, I know that I share a lot of the frustration that a lot of parents do, and we feel kind of helpless. But I think that the coronavirus pandemic and everything has been a blessing and a curse because what we have learned in this process as we're trying to navigate the pandemic and how our kids go back to school is it's starting to expose a lot of the dark secrets that are happening in our public education system, and parents are becoming more aware of that, and now they're starting to become more involved. And I know that your organization is kind of a centerpiece of that movement, at least here in Clark County School District in Las Vegas. And what are some of the things that you guys are doing to help parents like me?
Yeah, that's a great question. So, really, everything you said is correct that a lot of these things have been happening behind the scenes. Parents haven't really known that their rights are being trampled on. They don't realize how much the schools are circumventing parents. And so now parents are kind of seeing, classroom is being, streamed into their homes. And we're seeing parents go, oh, wait a second, why are they asking this question? Or why is this part of a lesson? And so they're asking more questions, and I do think it's eye-opening for a lot of people to see that there is quite a bit of bias in what a lot of the teachers are teaching. And then many people have seen on Twitter and some other places where teachers are now saying they were worried about some of the conservative parents hearing some of the things that they were teaching to the kids. Just this last week, we had a teacher from one of the local high school, it's like a college credit high school here online, tell the whole class that it was her job to radicalize them and then go on to encourage them to write postcards for the Democratic Party, encouraging people to vote Democrat. And, the mom contacted us and we're just thinking, if the tables were turned and this was a teacher saying something about, Trump, in fact, we've seen that. We had a teacher early on in this pandemic where the student had it was one of those flags with the blue line and the red line. So
Okay.
really just, honoring our police and our firefighters. And then they thought it was potentially a MAGA hat in the background, but they weren't 100% sure. And they reached out to the parent and said, you have to take that down during Zoom meetings. and there was a huge backlash. We got involved with that, and ultimately they changed their mind. The principal, said, sorry, never mind. But I mean, it was just crazy to think that, because the current president of the United States, if you had something honoring the president or honoring our police officers in your, in your bedroom inside your own home, to say that you couldn't have that on your wall during a class. And so we've seen a lot of issues pop up like that. So where we get involved in Power to Parent is when we see very glaring parental rights issues. And so, we had our back to school protest that you came to that was really successful, and people were really angry that, a lot of the people who are stopping us from going back to school right now are the governor, who's really had very poor or little at all leadership here in this state in regards to kids going back to school. We've seen the unions come out with lists of demands that are just impossible. And then we've seen our board of trustees, who essentially have just kind of capitulated to all of those other people and have voted that way, and it's not working. Many kids are being left behind, many families are being really put in bad positions. So we feel like that's a huge parental rights issue, and in the same frame, school choice is something that we advocate for, because we see that school choice is a parental rights issue. Parents have to be able to choose the kind of education that is right for their kids. And it's not even the same for every kid. I mean, I have kids that have been in private school. I have kids that have been homeschooled. So, and public school. So it's different for each kid, and you have to have the right to be able to advocate for your kids. So, I mean, that's really our mission, is to empower parents to advocate for their children.
Absolutely. And I know that one of the things that I struggle with the most, and I try to monitor and be as involved in my children's education as I can. Obviously, I want to know what my children are being taught, and I want to be able to help them with this homework as they make this journey through education. But one of the things that I see a lot of parents struggling with is the curriculum, and how it is so blatantly slanted to one side. Because I guarantee if some of these teachers had a Black Lives Matter flag in the background, or a Biden for president sign in the background, then nobody would even bat an eye, and the school district would back that up 100%, because they feel, what in my interpretation, these teachers feel like they are better at parenting our children than we are. And
Yeah.
as a parent, going back to what you had said about those teachers expressing concern that, conservative parents were going to hear what they were teaching. I mean, his exact words was engaging in the messy work of destabilizing kids in their racism, homophobia, and transphobia. So they actually see it as their obligation as educators to destabilize what parents are teaching at home, and then replace it with whatever message or ideology that they hold. And as a parent, the curriculum reflects this, and that really bothers me. How are you able to help parents kind of address that?
Yeah, I mean, that's a really good point you bring up. And we see that a lot. We see a lot of surveys that are going home, asking kids really personal questions about their lives. We've seen a lot of bias in the way of teachers asking questions to separate kids, making them answer a public question, and then separating them. And, for example, there was a family that reached out to us that said, do your parents agree with gay marriage? That was a question that they asked the class, and then they made the kids separate based on what their parents believed. And really, we saw this in like a bullying kind of fashion, where these kids either had to, lie to not get picked on, or they had to, or they just had to say, this is what my parents believe. And it was just really, it was inappropriate. And it wasn't really about the topic that they were discussing. Of course, we always, when we bring up these issues, we always get this, oh, you are anti-LGBT, or you guys don't want to talk to your kids about sex and all these other issues. But it's just intellectually dishonest to say that. Obviously, that parents want to allow their kids to have those conversations with them at home. And like you said, if you're having a topic come up at school, to know what parents or know what the teachers are teaching teaching so the parents can also have that home to school connection and have those conversations, and to be able to also teach their kids the things that they think that are appropriate when they're ready, and that's not always up to the teacher. And unfortunately, we do see a lot of these teachers who think it's their job to be the parent. And we always get the comment, well, parents aren't talking to their kids about this at home, or parents are old fashioned and they aren't teaching their kids the right values. And so we need to open their minds and teach it to them at school. And the fact is that it doesn't really matter what you teach your kids. It's your right to teach your kids when and where and whatever you want to teach them. And so, even if the parent isn't comfortable talking about a topic, and I don't think that's oftentimes the case at all, but even if that is the case, it's also not the teacher's job to step in and be the parent. They are not the parent. So what we've tried to do is really, gather parents from all different walks of life and say, do you believe that it's the school's job to decide what your children learn at school, or do you think it's the school's job to decide what they learn about sex, when they learn about sex? What do you think that as far as changing curriculum, we're seeing a lot of anti-American sentiments being leaked into the curriculum. Obviously the 1619 Project is a big example of that, and we're seeing some of the current administration trying to step in and kind of stop that from happening from a federal level. But it's been happening for a long time. We had a bill a couple of years ago in Nevada that removed a lot of important things from the social studies standards. And we stepped in and testified and tried to make sure that parents knew that was happening. So as far as what we do, we step in and try to change policy. We try to influence the policies. We try to watchdog what's going on in legislation in the state from a legislative standpoint, and from a policy standpoint, we try to watchdog the school districts and make sure we're stepping in and highlighting these glaring issues as they come up that are clearly parental rights issues. And then advocate for parents. Again, advocate and empower parents to advocate for their kids and say, hey, you don't have to be afraid to say, I'm not comfortable with this topic. You don't have to be afraid to step forward and say, my kid can have whatever flag he wants on the wall in his bedroom, and it's really none of your business. So for us, really empowering parents has been the number one way that there's only a few of us, right? We have a handful of staff here, but we want to impart that information to parents and empower them to take that on to their schools and their spheres of influence. And say, hey, maybe for example, this is not working for us. This distance learning is not working for us, or we tried it and it's not working, or we don't like what the teachers are teaching, and empower them to find another option, that there's a lot of other options out there for your kids to go to school and to be educated. So that's kind of where we're at as far as Power to Parent. We launched our parent union, which you were there when we announced that. And that was something that we have been talking about for a long time. We see all of these special interest groups and these large, well-funded organizations who come in and they get a seat at tables because, when it comes to policy making, because they have a lot of money and they're giving to they're donating to candidates and all these things that unions do. And so there's a gap for parents where we need a large, empowered organization, a group of parents who can have a seat at the table, who can step in and advocate on behalf of parents. So we're super excited about the parent union, and I am just want to encourage parents to join our union, because frankly, we're just gathering an army of parents. That's our goal right now, to say, obviously when you're stepping into a situation at your own kid's school, it can be very nerve-wracking. You have friends there, your kids have friends, and you don't want to have conflict where your kids go to school, and we understand that. But when you have a large empowered group of parents behind you, it's easier to say, hey, this is wrong, and I'm going to step in and do something about it.
Yeah, absolutely. And from my perspective, I would imagine I would hope, I should say, I should hope, because it's like, it's 2020. This is the world that we live in now. But I would hope that this would be a bipartisan issue, because I think that if children know the political affiliations of their teachers, then you've failed as a teacher. And that is not your job. Your job is to teach math and science and English and reading and writing and history. And you are there to shape these young minds to form their own opinions, not instill yours on them. And as a parent, I am confident enough in my beliefs and in my ideological structure and my worldview that I feel confident sending my child out into the world to form their own opinions, thinking and knowing that they're probably going to agree with me. And if they don't, that's okay. But I don't want them to disagree with me because someone told them not to. I don't want them to disagree with me and fight back on these topics with me because their teacher is indoctrinating them when they're supposed to be helping them flourish and grow and develop in their own unique way. And so I would hope that this would be a bipartisan issue, because I wouldn't want somebody who was a very, very hardcore conservative or right winger necessarily teaching my children either, because there are some of those beliefs that maybe I don't subscribe 100% to. And like you said, like on the gay marriage and the sex education and things like that, that's a personal thing, you know. And because I exist in two worlds, I am a conservative, but I am also married to a woman and I have children. That's a conversation that I want to have with my children. It's not something that I want anybody else teaching my kids. And so from your perspective and in your organization, do you find that this is coming from both sides, or do you feel like it's pretty one-sided?
You know, unfortunately, we've always tried to be really bipartisan, nonpartisan, because we agree. We think parental rights are across the board, regardless of where you come from, what your background is. You want to teach your children your own worldview, and you want to make sure that they are going to school learning, you know, how to read and write, and not necessarily what party to vote for, right? So
Right.
we've always felt like this should be a nonpartisan issue. But yeah, unfortunately, we have seen that oftentimes it comes from a real liberal bias, where, you know, we've kind of compared some of the sex education that they've tried to introduce across the country, but in Nevada, from these, you know, just really radical left-wing organizations that are super well funded, to having the NRA come in and teach constitutional law. We wouldn't ask them to do that, and you know, those organizations would be furious if we did. And so, because that's a partisan organization, very partisan, very well funded. And so we're just saying, when you make policy and when you teach things to kids at school, it should be neutral. We should be teaching kids to expand their mind and think critically and learn, you know, and develop those opinions on their own. And absolutely, if your teacher is showing their colors of what party they're voting for, then 100%. I mean, that's totally inappropriate. And you know, just this week, and I mentioned this to you, just this week we had an issue here in Las Vegas, in the Clark County School District at Palo Verde High School, where we had 3 teachers from a 10th grade English honors class that put a reading list out to their students and asked them to order off a book off this reading list. The first book on the list was a book called Fun Home. And some of the parents didn't know, it didn't have a description on it. And when they got it in the mail, a few of the parents looked at the book, which I was grateful that they did, and then reached out to us, because it's pornography. I mean, there's graphic sexual acts that are portrayed in this graphic novel. It's pictures, it's a graphic novel. And so we thought, gosh, this really seems inappropriate. How did this end up on this list? And you know, of course, when the parents reached out to the principal, he pulled the unit, and they defended the fact that they felt like they replaced this graphic novel unit with other books that were dehumanizing, like Of Mice and Men and To Kill a Mockingbird. So they were really justifying, they weren't apologizing for this pick, they were justifying it. And so we held a press conference and are working with the district now to kind of come up with a different policy. But what we're seeing, and just talking to some of my friends who are also English teachers in the district, they're telling me that this is going on all the time, that they are, you know, basically circumventing parents. We have an opt-in for sex education in Clark County. We're one of the only states left in the country that have opt-in required for sex education, but they're circumventing that process, and they're circumventing the law by, you know, introducing these graphic, inappropriate themes to kids. And so, yeah, I mean, unfortunately, we do see that it comes from one side very, very often. And you know, I'm of course not 100% of the time, because I obviously can't be everywhere all the time. I'm sure there's probably things that people would say, oh, this happened with someone supporting Trump or something. I don't know, but I haven't heard that. You know, that's not something that's been brought to my attention. I will oftentimes we see the 1619 Project coming in to talk about critical race theory and you know, being very pro liberal ideology in many, many areas.
Yeah, and that's terrifying because I mean, I know that my daughter and my children have both gone to faith-based schools, and those tend to be a little bit more conservative, albeit mixed, but it is generally more conservative. My daughter definitely feels more comfortable expressing her opinions at her private faith-based school than the public school that she went to previously. And even from a very young age, my youngest daughter, even though when she was in private school as a kindergartner, she had other children, because this was right around the election time, she had other children saying that they wouldn't be friends with her if her or her parents supported Trump.
Mm,
And but on the flip side, if one of her friends is a Biden supporter and vocally about that, there's nothing that she can say or do. She has to keep her mouth shut and not say anything because she will lose her friends.
yeah.
And this is the environment that our children are growing up in. And I mean, I hate to say it, but my children are growing up in the closet on the right because they have to suppress who they are, and they have to suppress, the things. Because we do talk about a lot of this as a family, because my children hear my videos, they hear the interviews that I do with some amazing patriots. Our family is a very faith-based family, and it's something that we discuss often. And I want them to understand why we feel the way that we do and not just agree with me. I've told my older daughter many times, if you decide to be a Democrat and vote Democrat, I will still love you and accept you into this family.
Mhm.
I just hope that you can have an intelligent conversation with me about why you're doing that.
Yeah.
And,
Yeah,
um,
absolutely.
you know, and so I don't, even on my own end as a parent, I don't want to constantly be pushing this certain ideology onto my kids, because if you're so insecure in your beliefs and you're so insecure in the message that you're presenting, you shouldn't need someone else to carry that torch for you and push that message into your children's heads. And as a parent, that is one of the things that I see my kids struggle with the most, is they are very conflicted because they're hearing just completely different things all the time, and they're trying to make heads or tails of it. And I
Yeah.
know that you guys have this parent union. What is the role of the parent union in the education? Do you guys go to the school district meetings? Do you have like a vote? Like, what does that really mean?
So we're right now, I mean, this is like our third week of our parent union. And so we are going to continue and just expand our advocacy efforts, which is what we've been doing. Our goal is we have had a number of trainings where our hope is to expand those trainings for parents, and to be able to, leadership trainings, to be able to advocate for themselves and for their kids. We do monitor the school board meetings. That is one thing that we do absolutely. And, really just work with legislators and policymakers to have these conversations of how to protect their rights. So, we need to expand, right? This has been our thing. We have been a very grassroots organization for a very long time, and we are at a tipping point where we need to really have a larger base. We need to have a larger group of parents. I think parents are, really recognizing, like you said, this has been really eye-opening to parents. Like, whoa, this has been going on. I didn't even realize it. My rights have been being trampled on, and I didn't even know. And so we've been messaging that for 5 years, but we've got to get a larger audience. We've got to get more people realizing that, to come to our side and say, hey, we want you to help us protect our rights, teach us how to do this, help us advocate, empower us to do this. So that right now is what we're doing. I mean, we're just going to continue and widen those efforts. That's our plan. But, again, we hope to do Facebook Live events with legislators. We've done that in the past, town halls, and just really getting the information in the hands of the parents that they need to be empowered.
Yeah, and I think that's so incredibly important, because a lot of parents that I've talked to express the same frustrations that I do, but they don't know what to do. They're like, okay, well, great. Yeah, we're frustrated. What do we do? Just call the school and act like a total Karen and just berate the teachers until, they send out an email. I mean, because that's all that happens.
Mhm.
And so I think that organizations like this are incredibly important, because now that I know, I'm going to be involved, and I'm going to have a more vocal position in my community when it comes to this. So I think that that's incredibly important. How do parents, and I think that you're starting something very important here, because I know that you're starting here in this community, but my hope is that a lot of parents around the country will see this video and form their own parent organizations to kind of provide that oversight to their own school districts, because it's incredibly important. How do people get involved with Power to Parent?
Yeah, great question. And I get calls all the time from around the country, and I consult all the time with parents to say, hey, this is what we've done, and this is how you can kind of mimic what we've done and form your own parent group. We have a website. It's called Power to Parent. That's the number 2, powertoparent.org. And you can go there, sign up for our newsletter. We are on Facebook, and Twitter, and Instagram. So follow us on our social media channels, and sign up for the Parent Union. It's $25 a year per family. You can sponsor another family, because another goal, to your point, is we don't want our advocacy to be out of the reach of any parent. We want to be able to, advocate for especially those disenfranchised parents that oftentimes get spoken for in policy and in legislation, who actually don't agree with a lot of what people are saying on their behalf. We really try to advocate for those families, our Hispanic families, our special needs parents. So go on our website, check out what we've done. You can read the history of Power to Parent. You can see we have a ton of resources on alternative education resources. So if you're unhappy with distance learning, to kind of take control of your own kids' education, your own family's, time, we have options on there too. So please go to our website. That's the best way to start.
Awesome. Okay, well, I went ahead and posted your website down in the chat for this video, and I encourage everybody to go and read up on this organization, even if you're not in Vegas, because this is something that you should be doing in your own communities. And we need to start taking a more active role in our children's education, because a big part of the reason why this is even a problem is because parents have not taken an active enough role in their children's education. And now we're having to respond and react to the situation that unfortunately our complacency has helped create. So everybody, please go to Power to Parent and get involved, form your own union. If you guys have any questions at all, please drop them down in the chat thread and I can email them over to Erin. I'm sure that this is an interview that we're going to want to do more than just once, because this is very important, especially as we continue to do the distance learning and figure out how we are going to get our kids back in school. Erin, is there anything else that you want to tell the audience today?
I think I think parents haven't always known that this is happening, and they haven't always recognized that they need to step out in front. We send our kids to school because we have a lot of trust in our teachers and in the administration. And I'm not saying that you shouldn't. There's a lot of amazing professionals out there, and we love our teachers. But unfortunately, they need to know that a lot of teachers and a lot of just school staff in general are interested in replacing your values. So don't allow that to happen. Be eyes open, check your kids' reading lists, and go to the website and drop us, if you're seeing this happen at your school, please reach out to us. We'd love parents to say, hey, this is happening, and because we can't be everywhere. And that's why we need this army of parents who are saying, hey, this is happening at my school, and let's figure it out together.
Absolutely. And I love that. And I'm all in, because I know the struggle all too well. All right. Well, Erin, if you don't have anything else to add, we are definitely going to do everything that we can to support your mission and your campaign to give parents back their rights in their children's education. And if you guys have any questions, please let me know. I'm happy to forward those on and answer those at any time. And I think that we'll definitely have Erin, and I would love to talk to Charlie another time too, and we can just keep getting updated on what your status is, because this is an uphill battle that we're fighting, and I think that this is just beginning. So I appreciate you so much, and thank you for joining me today. You guys, don't forget to go check them out on Facebook, Twitter, and also their website. And that's all I have for today. Sorry I sound like I have a feather pillow shoved up my face, because I do have a little bit of a cold right now.
Thank you, Lindsay. I appreciate it.
You're so welcome. All right, you guys, until next time, this is The Closet on the Right, and I love you. Bye.